Leaves from the vine, falling so slow, like fragile, tiny shells drifting in the foam. Little soldier boy, come marching home. Brave soldier boy, come marching home. Leaves from the vine in orange glow, a sun setting in the sky, the edges cracked though whole. Little soldier boy, what's left of home? Brave soldier boy, please come back home. Leaves in the grass, their numbers grow, clinging to the vine, not knowing what's below. Little soldier boy, can I come home? Brave soldier boy, will I come home? Leaves on the wind, where do they go? They flutter, spin, and drift along, dancing to the floor. Little soldier boy,
long time no see, people. Currently trying to find my group right now. Walking around like a lost little puppy because I don't have a key to the room anyways. Otherwise, I'd just go up there for a little bit, but... entered for the cosplay competition. Excited as always. My handlers are gonna hate me because I decided to sign up for a 9 to 9:30 slot, judging the slot, on Sunday. So that kind of pushes Normal Bloom out of the way, unfortunately. But I might squeeze Normal Bloom in later today if I don't feel like doing Ren. Well, I don't know. It just depends, I guess. Anyways. Oops. What the hell are you doing?
Needs help up. I think he's asking to be lifted back up. Are you asking for help? Yes, he is.
Help the porter robot. Oh, that's so cute. Hello. That is super cute.
Intro to cosplay styling wigs. Today we're going to be talking about styling cosplay wigs, and usually what I like to do is have a foundation for you guys, because when you understand the foundations of something that you're trying to learn is where you can build up upon that, okay? So this is going to be a very base level, kind of like, if you don't know anything about wigs, this is a perfect panel for you. If you know everything about wigs, then this could be maybe something that you can refresh your memory on, or something that you might find that you didn't think of doing before. I'm here to help with any of that stuff. And so I love sharing my knowledge with people and cosplayers and everything that I can to help you guys advance and that kind of stuff. So a little bit about myself. My name is Debbie. I go by Deborah Slay on all of social media. I've been cosplaying and going to cons for about 12 years now, and I'm also a licensed cosmetologist and barber here in the state of Florida, and I'm currently employed at Walt Disney World as a cosmetologist, so I do wigs every single day that I'm at Disney, so I know quite a
Do
bit.
you mind if I just have this record
That's totally
audio?
fine. That was my
Because
next thing. Yeah, absolutely. That was my next thing I wanted to say as well. If you guys want to take photos or if you guys even want to come up here, I don't care. If you want to record, that's totally fine with me. I don't care either way. So please go ahead. I will try to go through as much as possible as I possibly can for you guys because I know we only have like about 50 minutes or so. So if you guys have questions or anything that I talk about, something that might pop up that you might not know what I'm talking about, write it down, jot it down, because at the end of the panel, I'm going to try to have a Q&A. If for some reason we run out of time, whatever the case might be, you guys can also catch me outside of the panel, or you guys can you guys can totally ask me questions out there, or you can always message me on Instagram, and I'm totally open for you guys to answer any questions that you guys might have, okay? So today what we're going to be talking about, I'm going to do it this way so you can see it. So a little bit of an overview of today's little lesson that we're going to be having. We're going to be talking about basic tools. What do we need in our kits to kind of start out a little bit. Types of wigs, what kind of wigs we work with, what's better for what you want to do, what you want to work with. Crimping wigs, why do we crimp wigs, what is the purpose of crimping wigs, and we're going to talk about coloring wigs, how can I color a wig, is there a certain way, certain items I can be using, what I can't be using. We're going to be talking about how to cut wigs as well, what is a proper way of cutting a wig, what can mess up a wig by cutting it, okay? And we're going to talk about shaping wigs, how do we shape a wig, how do I get that spike, how do I get that ponytail, how do I get the curl, all of that stuff we're going to be talking about today, okay? So basic tools, what you'll need are hot tools, what are called hot tools. That means your blow dryers, your crimpers, your flat irons, things like that, your steamer as well. Those are all considered hot tools. And basically the reason why you need hot tools is because you're working with what are called synthetic wigs, and we're going to get to that in the next show, in the next slide. And the reason being is because synthetic wigs are made of plastic, and they don't react the way that human hair reacts. So what you want is heat in order to manipulate and shape that wig, okay? So another thing that you might need in your precious kit will be your hairspray, right? Usually Got2b, everybody usually will talk about Got2b. It's that yellow bottle. It is the strongest hairspray that I've ever seen in the market, okay? It holds up pretty well. Any kind of glues, well not any kind of glue, but the clear tacky glue is what I like to use personally, and I also use the E6000 glue, which is another powerful glue that you can use. It just totally depends on what you are doing. If you're building a hairline, or if you're doing some spikes, or whatever it is that you're doing, depends on what kind of glue you want to use. Personally, I use both. You're going to need shears, obviously, 2 kinds of shears, and we'll talk about those, which will be blunt shear and your texturizing shears. You're going to need some clips, you're going to need pins, T-pins, all of that stuff. Some good teasing combs, detangling combs, all of those kinds of things. Combs, brushes, and you can find all of this stuff on Amazon, your local beauty supply shop, any of that stuff. It doesn't need to be fancy, it doesn't need to be expensive. You can totally find these things pretty much online if you need it to be, or just your beauty supply shop, okay?
Wig head with a clamp-on stand.
Yes, yeah, canvas heads for sure. So this one is not on a canvas head, these are on regular styro heads because I was just having it on there. But when you are going to style wigs, get a canvas head, a cork head, right? Don't style wigs on styrofoam heads, they are way too small and it's not going to look the way you want it to look when you put it on yourself or if you're doing it for somebody else, okay? So a lot of people will do that. Styrofoam heads are to put your wigs on once you're done styling them so that they stay on there and it just holds as a placement, not for styling your wig. So whatever head size you are, and you usually find your head size by taking the largest part of your head, going around, taking the circumference of your head. Typically most people will be around a 23, which is kind of your more common head size, and most wigs come in a size 23, but you can always stretch them to make them larger. You can always extend them, putting in elastic bands in them and doing all of that jazz, okay? So different types of wig. I mentioned that we work with synthetic wigs because working with human hair is a lot harder than working with synthetic wig in my personal opinion. And the reason why we also use synthetic wigs is because it's fake. it's plastic. Human hair wigs cost a lot of money, in the hundreds of dollars, as opposed to a synthetic hair wig. Now, there's different kinds of synthetic hair. You have your lace fronts, you also have your skin caps. There depends on what you're working with. A lace front wig will literally have a lace, and it'll give you more of a natural hairline. So if that's kind of what you're looking for, then the lace will be more of what you want. Typically they're a little bit more expensive because they have a lace to it, okay? As opposed to a skin cap, which literally will have a skin cap, and it looks like a scalp that's on there and hair will come out of it. This wig, for example, does not have a skin cap. If you look at it, it's directly coming from the cap itself. There's hair that is sewn into that cap that is just coming out. So usually, it depends on what you want. What is it that you're looking for? It's totally up to preference. You know, you can always build a hairline, a fake hairline, with having a skin cap wig, which is totally fine. Good places to buy these kinds of wigs is Epic Cosplay, which is one of my favorite places to buy wigs, or Arto Wigs, okay? Now, the reason why I like those two stores, the fibers are very nice. They are thick, it's easy to work with, as opposed to buying a wig, say, off of Amazon. However, I'm not gonna totally tell you not to buy an Amazon wig, because guess what? This is an Amazon wig. Now, the reason being is because Amazon wigs typically tend to be a little bit on the cheaper side, which is totally fine, you know, whatever, if you have a budget, that's totally cool. I got this one off of Amazon, and it worked for what I needed to work for. Now, the reason why I say you should buy some Amazon wigs, especially if you're brand new and you kind of want to practice some of your skills and whatever it is that you want to work with, it'd be better if you chop up a wig that's $12 to $20 as opposed to a wig that's $50 to $100, right? So you definitely want to practice some of those skills on an Amazon wig, and that's really fine. I would always say check the reviews first. Make sure that they can withstand heat, right? So if it says this wig can withstand 200 degrees heat, perfect. Check the reviews, see if other people have worked on that same exact wig you're buying to see if it does what you want it to do, okay? So, there's a brand new style or brand new technique that's coming about in the past couple of years that has not been a thing, especially when I started cosplay about 12 years ago, right? And that's crimping. You might have heard that, you might have seen that. So what a crimper is, it looks exactly like a flat iron, except of having a flatness to it on the iron bars of it. It's got ridges in it. The smaller the ridge, the more crimp marks you'll have. So it'll create these little zigzags in the wig, okay? The bigger the crimp marks, the more of a wave you're gonna get. So the reason why we crimp wigs nowadays is because it gives you a texture. When you pull out a wig brand new out of a packet, out of a bag, it's like it's very slick, right? It's very just like, it feels like a factory on it, like you can feel the debris on it, which is why I typically wash my wigs. The moment I get them, I just give them a good wash, get rid of all that yuckiness, and start crimping, right? I let it air dry and start crimping it. So with crimping, like I said, it gives you that texture, and what that texture does is helps you style better. It gives you a little bit more of a grip to the wig. You can manipulate it easier as opposed to getting it straight out of the bag, putting it on and trying to make spikes or a ponytail or whatever it is that you're making with it. So that's why we started crimping wigs. Like I said, it wasn't until recently. There's other ways to get that same texture by teasing your wig. So say you don't have a crimper, and that's totally okay. You can still get that same floof effect, is what we call it, the floof, because it gives you that volume as well. So typically, if you don't have a crimper, what you can do is you can tease your wig, your entire wig, make it a big floofy mess. You might think, oh, I'm destroying this wig. That's kind of what you want to do to it, I'm not going to lie. You kind of want to make it look like real nice and rough. And then what you can do is you can use a flat iron, go in those parts, and kind of heat up those fibers. Essentially what you're doing is kind of burning the wig a little bit, because that fiber is getting burnt, okay? Essentially is what you're doing to it. So the reason, like I said, why you want to do that is so that it's easier to style. So you don't need a crimper, you can use other methods to do that as well. And it works just as fabulous. I do have another wig in here that is going to be kind of hard to see, I'm sorry, that I used that technique as opposed to a crimper because I didn't have a crimper at the time. But it turns out, and it works just the same, whatever gets you to that point, it gets you to that point. Now the way you want to crimp, there's a bit of a strategic method to do it. So I've seen a lot of videos where people will get wefts of hair, going horizontally and crimping horizontally to that wig. Now, not a problem, you know, but the only reason why I suggest not doing that is because you could see the crimp marks once you're done doing that. And you can see them pretty heavy, and then you know that that wig was crimped. So the way that I usually do it, and I have a picture here, and I'm sorry, it's so tiny, but usually what I like to do is I like to grab about 4 wefts going up the wig, right? So I grab about 4 sewn in wefts. I take about an inch section, and I vertically crimp it coming towards me as opposed to crimping it horizontally parallel to that hair weft. I go perpendicular to it, and I crimp vertically going down. And the reason why is because it'll give you less of a texture, less of that zigzag that's going to be super noticeable. And I find that to be very easy for me. If you have another method of doing it, do it. I don't care. It's your work. It's going to be, either way, you're going to get to that style that you're going to need anyways, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a very creative thing that we do, and it's your work, and whatever gets you happy with your work is what you need, right? So that is why we crimp wigs. Like I said, there's other methods. Totally up to you, but there's a ton of tutorials on online on how to do this, and I typically try to post tutorials on my Instagram as best as I can when I am working on a wig, right? So, coloring wigs. Like I said, that wig that I said that I did not crimp is right here. I'm cosplaying Zenitsu from Demon Slayer. At the time, I did not have a crimper, but I needed that hair, I needed that floof, right? I needed that bigness to it, and I couldn't achieve it without a crimper, but nonetheless, I still try to do that teasing method, and then I went in with the hot iron, and I just went along the strands. Once I saw that it was pretty big, and I saw that it was burnt enough, I don't want to say that word, but as I saw that it was ready, let's say, I go ahead and I brush it out, and it gave me that floofness. You can use that process as many times as you need to. Recrimp your wigs as many times as you need to achieve the effect that you want. If you want a big, big wig, crimp and let it sit there for a little bit, but be careful because it can melt off your fibers. So you don't want to hold on to it too long, and trust me, you will know you're burning it because it smells. So, but another aspect of coloring wigs, that's always so fun. And one thing that we have to understand about coloring synthetic hair is that it's not like human hair. However, color theory still applies to when you are coloring your wigs, right? So say you have a blonde wig and you say, oh, I want this wig to be blue, right? Well, if you mix yellow and blue, you get green, right? Sometimes we do that to our own hair and we're like, why is it not blue? Because color theory, right? So I always say if you want to color the entire wig a different color, best you get a white wig, right? A white colored wig that has no pigment on it whatsoever, it is white. If you put that in, you know, Ritmore dye, which is a dye that we use, and always get the synthetic kind, because it's meant for synthetic, and we work with synthetic wigs during cosplay. So in that method, you usually pour the Ritmore dye with hot boiling water. Now, the more dye you put in it, the darker the color, right? And the longer you let the wig marinate in the pot, the more darker it'll be. So always give it a good test strand when you are doing it to make sure that it is the color that you like, that it's achieving the color that you want, right? Because you don't want to put that wig in there and then boom, it's like, oh, this is too dark, I can't lighten it, right? Because it's synthetic hair. If you put lightener in synthetic hair, it's not gonna lift at all the way that actual hair would lift, right? Another way of coloring wigs, you have airbrushing. You can airbrush a wig, and typically with airbrushing or any type of dyes, I personally use water-based colors. The reason why I use water-based color and I never use alcohol-based colors is because hairspray is made out of alcohol. The main ingredient is alcohol in it. So that means, say you sprayed your entire wig, you did this beautiful work, and then you go in with alcohol-based product, it's gonna reactivate that hairspray and it's gonna come loose a little bit, okay? And that color will run on you. So say you colored it with alcohol base and you put that hairspray where you colored, it will start to reactivate and it will run on you. So that's why I always say use water-based products. This synthetic hair Zenitsu wig I made, I hand painted this actually because I didn't have an airbrush gun. Again, you don't need an airbrush gun. It's a lot faster, it definitely looks a lot neater and cleaner and it gives you a better effect, but you don't necessarily need it if you don't have, if it's not in your budget or it's not within your, you know, you're like, oh, I never used an airbrush gun, I don't know how to use that. That's okay. You can You can paint it on with your hands. I've done that to my wigs. I've done that to my clients' wigs. It works it works pretty good. You just have to have a blend, and you have to make sure you don't go too heavy or too light in order for it to blend, but it's definitely doable, right? So again, I always use water-based products. I never use alcohol-based when I do color. And another thing about color is you never want to grab, let's say, a black wig and say, oh, but I want this to be icy blonde, right? Again, it will not lift, it will not move. If it's black, it will remain black. If it's brown, it will remain brown. If it's a dark color, it will remain that color, right? But like I said, if you need it to darken a wig, you can use a white wig, put in the Ritmore dye. If you don't have a color, let's say, that you don't like, you can always make your color. So like again, you have your 3 basic color, which is red, blue, and yellow. Those are your primary colors. So you can make any color that you want out of those 3 colors. You just mix and play and all that, but that's a little bit more, I think, advanced stuff for color theory, right? It's a little bit hard, but it can definitely work for you guys, okay? So it totally just depends on what you want to do with that, right? So cutting wigs. Now, cutting wigs is very, very different than cutting human hair, okay? And the reason being is because on an actual human scalp, it grows out naturally. There's hair literally everywhere on your scalp, as opposed to a wig where there's usually gaps, because there's gaps between the wefts of the actual wig. So if you go in and you cut straight across, it'll give you a gaping, like, huge hole that's right in between, because the way the wefts are sewn into the cap. So it creates this big hole, and then you're like, oh man, I messed up, I don't know how to fix it, right? Sometimes you can save it, you can salvage it, but most of the times if you cut it too short, the wig is now too short and there's no way it can grow back because it's not like human hair. That's why I say it's best to practice on cheaper wigs. Say you have a wig that you never will use again, but you're like, you know what, I can practice some of these techniques, try it on that wig, see what happens, right? But typically when you're cutting a cosplay wig, you want to cut in a zigzag motion. So you don't want to necessarily grab your hair and just like cut it straight across, right? Because like I said, it creates a hole. Typically when you're cutting layers on an actual head, you'll take it far away, you'll take it at a 90-degree angle, you'll cut it, and as the hair falls down, it'll fall very beautifully. Wigs is not the same way like that at all. So typically the way you want to do it, and I'm going to try to demonstrate just a little bit on my actual wig if I can. I'm not going to cut it because she's too pretty. So typically what I mean by cutting in a zigzag motion, say that this is too long for me and I wanted to cut it shorter, I will grab my shears, right? And I will then go to where I need to cut it. And I typically like to leave about an extra inch or two of extra length, right? Because if you cut it too short, like I said, it's too short. Nothing you can do about it, right? So I typically like to cut a little bit longer than what I actually want. That way I'm like, okay, I'm safe, I can keep cutting shorter if I need, right? So in the zigzag motion that I'm talking about, you want to grab your hair right there, and you'll have your shears. Your shears will go right in between, and you'll go up and down, up and down. You're not going to go like this, because then it just looks like a hot mess, and it'll look like a hole in the wig, I promise you. So you want to go up and down, and as you're going up and down, you want to close your shears just a little bit, okay? You don't want to do this. You kind of want to go like this, so it's cutting just at that intersecting point between your still blade and your cutting blade, okay? So as you're going up and down, you're cutting just a little bit, and it'll start to fall. And what will happen, it'll give you this feathery effect. It'll look still like you have that cutting line of where you want it, but it'll look less noticeable that it's being cut that way, right? So if I push this down all the way here, you can see that it's going like this. You can see that. But it's very feathered, it's very neat, it doesn't have a bulkiness to it, right? Sometimes you want that bulkiness depending on the character that you're doing, right? For example, I cosplayed Zenitsu from Demon Slayer. If you know his haircut, if you know this character, his hair is very choppy. And it's very straight, and it's got all of these boxy looking kind of hair. And that's one time that you want to cut it straight across and blunt, because that's the style that he has. But that's not always the case for every single character. Now, another cutting technique that you can do, I'll take your questions at the end if that's okay. Perfect. But write it down, jot it down so that way you don't forget. Another technique that you can do when it comes down to cutting is debulking wigs, giving it texture, right? So you want to feather it out a little bit. It's too heavy, especially when it comes down to the bangs. Bangs, typically even on people, we don't have bulky bangs at all. They'll be very feathery, they'll be very light, they move, right? So you can do what's called point cutting. Now, point cutting, you will still use your regular blunt shears. And your regular blunt shears usually come in different sizes. They can be, you know, between 6 inches, 7 inches, I've seen 8 inches, that's crazy. You can have a 5.5, typically 5.5 to 6 inches of shears is perfectly fine. And so the way of point cutting and what point cutting is with those type of scissors is, say this is looking still a little bit too bulky for me. I don't like it, it's too heavy down here. I need to feather out a little bit more. So instead of doing that zigzag, because that zigzag technique is to just cut to the length that I want, not to remove the weight, just the length that I want. Point cutting is to remove the weight. And the way that you want to do it is with your blunt shears, right? The same exact thing, instead of going up and down this way, you're going to go up and down this way. You're going to go vertical with it. And the same thing, you don't want to go in and chop and just close it. You still want to do that same motion of closing it, barely closing it, okay? So when you're going in here, when you're going in there, you want to go and close. As you're closing, go ahead and remove your shears. You want to go up and down. You want to go in, take it out. So you guys already like separating it as I'm just doing it with my scissors or with my fake scissor hands, right? Edward scissor hands, love that film. So it's already separating it, as you can see, just by doing that alone, just a demonstration. But that is what your shears will do when you do that with the point cutting technique, okay? And that will only reach however tall or however long your shears are, right? So if you have a 6-inch shear, it'll only reach about six inches or so going in and taking it out, or less than that, less than that. It will not go over 6 inches, let's say. But it'll just be in this particular area, right? But say that the whole wig is too bulky. I'm like, oh, it's too bulky even throughout here and not just at the end. Well, you have what are called texturizing shears. Shears also, I still forgot to say, but that means scissors. But yeah, so texturizing shears are shears that actually have teeth on it. So there's different kinds of texturizing shears. You have ones that have little tiny spaces in between, which means they have a lot of teeth on it, which means it'll remove less hair. If you have ones that have more spaces in between, it means that it's going to remove more hair. So those are a little bit more tricky. They're a little bit harder to use because it removes a lot of hair. Okay, so those shears are the ones that you can use inside of the wig, right? So say that my ponytail is a little bit too thick, I don't like it, I need to thin it out a little bit. I will go to the base of where the wefts are coming from, and right in between, I don't want to go on the top layer that will be presenting itself on the outermost part of it, and I don't necessarily want it in the back either. Kind of that perimeter, I kind of want it to be smooth and slick. Because when you use your texturizing shears, it'll leave those little cuts and little marks. It'll leave a demarcation line. And when you do that, it's very noticeable that it was cut there. So the reason why I say you go right in between here, underneath your outermost layer of what's going to be presenting outside of your wig, and you can go right at the base if you needed to, or maybe just a little bit midways, whatever you want to debulk, and just start pressing and cutting away. And that way you brush it out. And I would say, cut and then brush it out and feel it. Is it still too thick? Okay, I'm gonna go back, do it one more time. Is it still too thick? A little bit. And then I keep doing it until I get my satisfying results. But be very careful because you can debulk too much and it'll just keep going and debulking about it, okay? So those are like some of the ways that you can use cutting. Again, cutting I think is one of the hardest parts of wig styling, I personally think. But cutting in that kind of manner will also help with spiking wigs. Right? So if I, for example, wanted to spike this for whatever reason, as you can see, I can kind of just start moving it like this, and it's starting to slowly come at a point. Because when the wig is far too bulky and you're trying to spike it, it won't reach to that nice point that you want, that very nice little crisp, right? So debulking all of that out will get you that feathered look. It'll make it easier for you to spike a wig. It just makes it all the easier. So if you have, for example, a wig that's far too long, say I didn't want a ponytail on this wig, right? Say I'm like, oh, it just came this long, I don't need all this hair. that's the only way that you can go in and cut just straight across, is when you're just gonna remove it and just get rid of this hair. So say I wanted my hair to sit right about here, right? I will go in with my blunt cut shears, I will cut right about here. I just cut, get rid of it. And then I can go back into it, I want it just a little bit more shorter than what I cut here, and that's when I can go up and down and start feathering out that hair, okay? So cutting wigs is a little tricky, but once you kind of get the gist of it on how to do it, same thing applies to your bangs. You want to still go in there and kind of point cut, kind of get rid of that heavy, harsh line. I always say debulk the crap out of your bangs because most wigs come really, really hefty on your bangs. So it just totally depends, again, on the style that you're doing. For example, if I was cosplaying Zenitsu again, I wouldn't want to do that. I want the most bulkiness I can get out of that bang because it's pretty out there, it's pretty, it protrudes out more. So it totally depends on the kind of style that you're looking for. If you're going more for a cartoony style, if you're going for more of a natural style, totally up to you, because then again, we are cosplaying, you know, characters, and sometimes they have very unrealistic hairstyles that cannot be achieved with normal styling of hair, right? Does that make sense? Shaping wigs. So I mentioned about a steamer. So a steamer will be probably your bestest friend when it comes down to styling wigs. And now, the reason being is I mentioned that synthetic hair is plastic, okay, you guys? So it's plastic, so that means that it behaves as such. And so the way you can manipulate the plastic is by heating up that fiber. When you're heating up that fiber and you're letting it cool down and you're molding it as it's warm, once it cools down, it will remain that way. I can take this wig, put it upside down, shake it, put it back on my head, it will still look like this. It will not come apart because I used so much heat on it that I was able to mold and shape it in that, to that point that I need it to be. So when you're, that's probably the one thing you're gonna take away from this panel is gonna be heat, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. And that way you can manipulate and shape it to however it is that you want it. So a lot of the times we cosplay characters that have a lot of spikes in it, not all the time, but I've seen a lot of spikes. I personally like to spike wigs. It is one of my favorite things to do. I like working with short wigs. I don't necessarily like to do long wigs, but it is what it is. Sometimes I cosplay characters that have long wigs, but that is another story for another day. So a little bit of how to spike a wig. I get this question quite a lot. I have some steps written on here. If by the end you guys need to take a picture, come up here, take a picture of it, totally fine, don't care. Now everybody has a different method of how to style or spike a wig or just overall how you want to go about styling. I don't think that there is necessarily a super wrong way about it. I think there are some ways where I'm like, you could probably do it a little different. But I don't think that there is necessarily like, oh, the way you're doing it is so wrong. Like, you learn as you go, you see what works best for you. I've seen people just use straight up a steamer and not even any hairspray and it stays. And I'm like, that's magic, you're a wizard and you're not real, okay? that is not real out there, okay? So that's what it is, that's all I gotta say about that. But, so the way that I like to style a wig and how to spike a wig is, typically I will have this hair, say I wanna spike this. So what I typically like to do, it's been teased, it's been crimped, right? It's been doing all of that. So I will now open it up a little bit. I will feather it up to try to make it into a spike, right? So what I like to do is I like to spray a little bit of hairspray inside. I will tease the inside of this hair. So that way that there is structure inside, so that way when I go and form my, my spike, there's something inside holding it all together, right? So teasing is super important because that's what's gonna hold the structure all together. If there's absolutely nothing in there, over time it'll just, it'll go. You can put it back up, but it'll go, you know what I'm saying? But having that, having something inside will help you spike that wig, okay? So I have it in here, I tease hairspray, I go in and I blow dry because Got2b glue is so awesome. Got2b glue will help you, it's a harder, it's a hard extra hold spray. That's why everybody uses it in this industry, or I want to say cosplay, but a cosplay is an industry. So that's why I like to use the blow dryer on it, is because it'll make it harder. Now you don't want to put too much heat onto that because that's when it's going to fall apart. So you want to be just a little bit careful. You go ahead and you spray that inside, hit it with the blow dryer, step away from it. Go ahead and feel it, make sure it's nice and and hard and tacky there, and you're like, okay, it's good to go. So the next thing that I like to do is I can go over it with the blow dryer on the outside to try to start shaping and molding it, or I can just go ahead and grab my steamer. Okay, now be careful with the steamer. It can get really, really hot and it can really, really burn you. Ask me how I know that. Okay. So anyways, so as you already have your hairspray inside, all of that goodness, right? Go ahead and get your steamer. Start to steam that wig. You will see the steam on the wig. You will see it wet it, okay? So that's what it is. Steam will turn it in water, right? Now, you have to be very careful not to over steam it because it will wet your hair, and when it's wet, you just have to let it wait and dry, and it's a whole process, and you don't want to do that. So you go ahead and steam it all around, and that's when you start to mold it into the shape. Say I need it to go this way, right? So I will start to mold it as it's like a little bit hot. As this is still hot, you go ahead and you mold it, you shape it to what you need it to. Keep molding, and you can use the steamer as many times as you need to get the shape. Say I need it to go this way on this side, but then I need it to turn and go this way. So I will hit it with the steam there, turn it this way. Once it's pretty solid there, I can start moving to this side and start to twist it and bend it this way. And once you keep doing that process with the heat and the hairspray and all of that, it will start to bend and move, and you will have this. It will not go anywhere. I can tap this. It's not going to go anywhere. So these are the same exact steps I took to get to this wig. Now this wig particularly, like I said, I got it from Amazon, so it doesn't have as much wefts as an Epic Cosplay wig would or an Arta wig would, right? But nonetheless, it's still doable. It still does work. If you need to add extra wefts into your wig, buy 2 wigs. Unweft one, take it out, unstitch it, sew that one into the other wig. Totally, perfectly fine. Done it before, but I'm lazy, so I don't sew it. I glue it in because I'm lazy. It works. It still works. So, like I said, your steamer will be your best friend. It will be what will work for you the best, in my personal opinion. A lot of people will use the flat iron. When you use the flat iron, it tends to obviously flatten what you have. So instead of having it 3-dimensional, it starts to look more like 2D, and it'll be flat like this and going like that. If the style requires for it, do it. If you like it that way, do it. I'm not telling you not to. I personally like a little bit more of 3-dimensional shapes for me on my wig, so I do it this way, right? So once you have it, say you finally shaped it, you like it, it looks good, give it another spray around, grab your blow dryer, and set it that way. So now that you have it, it'll be like hard as a rock. Like if you come here and you touch this, it's pretty hard, but I've worn this for a while. It's been kind of sitting there. So the hairspray eventually will start to kind of flake off because, like I said, it's synthetic hair. It will not hold that hairspray or absorb it the way your actual hair will, because your actual hair has cuticles in it. And what it happens with your cuticles, they will open, and whatever hairspray you put into it, shampoo, color, it'll close right back up and it'll hold it in. That's why you have all these hairspray that's like anti-frizziness, all that stuff. Your actual wig will not frizz if it's hot outside, if it's humid per se. Now those things can affect the products that you have on there nonetheless. It can maybe reactivate it, totally depends. Like water can cause a little bit of problems, especially if it's raining a lot. Do not go and running in the rain, especially if you colored your wigs, because you'll just have all your colors just running through your head. So you kind of don't want that, right? But the very end, say that you finally got it to that shape. I like this is perfect. I already set it, it's set, it's good to go. The very, very final thing that you would like to do, and this is what I do, is I use that tacky clear glue. Now the reason why I use tacky clear glue is so that way it doesn't show too much on any other colored wigs, right? Sometimes it dries a little bit translucent, but you can kind of get that film of kind of like faint white, like a fog on it, which is why I use the tacky clear glue. Now tacky clear glue does have a little bit of a shine to it, so you can see it sometimes, but if you're not looking at it, you don't notice at all. So what I like to do, and this one, I have it here as well, if you come here and you touch it, you can feel the glue on there. So at the very end, I use about 2 inches. I'll go about 2 inches and I'll wrap glue around it. I'll use my fingers and I start to kind of close that spike into it. And I go like this, and then I let it air dry. I just let it sit for the entire night, and there you go, it'll be there, and it'll do it. So the steamer works for any kind of style. Say you need to curl your wigs. Some people don't know, but you can curl synthetic hair. A lot of people don't think that. They think, oh, it's straight, it'll forever be straight. This wig is curly, it'll forever be curly. No, you can curl a synthetic hair wig. There's different kinds of curling methods. It totally depends on the curl that you need. There's a few that I can think about, which is your pin curls. Typically, pin curls will give you more of a finger wave look. So they'll all go this way, and then the next row will go this way, and the next row will go this way. It's a different kind of curl. You can do a barrel curl. Typically that one, as you roll it, it'll come out and it'll give you more of a curl, if that makes sense. It's kind of difficult to explain it here, but, or you can do a spiral curl as well, and that'll give you a curl that'll come down just like that. You can use hot rollers. That way you don't have to sit there and worry about too much. If it's getting hot enough, if it's been there a minute, you don't know, you're like, oh, I don't know. They do sell hot rollers, and you can get those on Amazon. I personally don't have them. I just curl the hair with my fingers. I pin it right into the wig. I grab my steamer, and I sit there for about an hour, just doing that. Steam, 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 let go, let it cool off, go back, steam, steam, steam. And I do that about 5 times. When I let that hair out, it'll curl. It'll be a curl. I did an aerial wig that way at home because she was curly when I got her out of the bag, but I didn't like the curls on it, and I had to crimp it. When you crimp it, it'll go straight again. So I need to put the curls back in there, and you can curl. You can most definitely curl wigs as well. So there's all kinds of things you can do. Building ponytails is another thing. That's, I feel like, is a more advanced topic for today, and also building buns. You know, if you want to do your little Sailor Moon buns, all things like that require a structure underneath the wig. You have to build a frame under it. You got to make sure it's balanced, so when you put it on your head, it doesn't just slide your whole wig and your whole thing is off. You're walking to con hall and your whole wig falls off. You're like, oh my god, I look bald. So you know, you want to make sure that you have some balance with that. You can make the ponytails out of foam. I've made buns out of, oh my god, what is it called? Craft foam, or not craft foam, but craft sheets, which are literally a sheet and it's felt. And I got ones that are about medium, because there's firm, there's medium, and there's like really soft. So I do that, I stuff them, and then I wrap them with hair. There's all kinds of different things that you can do. You can build your own hairlines if you need to. And that I usually put an extra, felt to extend the hairline, and then I go in and I start making my pieces. I glue it on with the E6000 glue. Sometimes I use the tacky glue, whatever I'm feeling, you know what I'm saying? No rules. But again, so there's so many different things that you can do with wigs, and it's a beautiful craft. I love it. It's my favorite part of cosplaying, I think. And I tried sewing. If you sew, God bless your heart, because that's not for me at all. You can't do that. And build armor. If you build armor, good for you, man. I don't know how to do that either. But doing wigs is my personal favorite thing to do. And there's so much more topics that I can talk to you guys about, but we'll be going on forever and ever and ever, and it'll take forever. It's already 42, and I think we have a couple of more minutes left. So if you guys have any questions at all, which I'm sure you have 1,000, because that was so much knowledge and so much in just a short period of time, and that's not even the extent of wig styling. There's so much more that you can do. So, if you have a question that I didn't even touch on, none of that, please raise your hand, let me know. I see a hand over there, tell me.
Do you know how to take a wig that comes parted and make bangs?
You said it comes parted.
It comes like with no bangs, it's just...
Yes. Okay. So if it comes like that and you want to create bangs, they do sell, like I said, that the skin capped wigs that I talked about. Metrocon does have them, and that one, it's a little bit hard. It's a little bit trickier, but because it's got that skin cap on it, when you do part it and you hit it with the steamer, I think that would be your best option. So say it's going directly like this, but you want to create like straight bangs. Go ahead and part it the way you would cut it. You would kind of want to go at a triangular. Take a point wherever you want it. If you want it back here, you want it up here, you want little bangs, longer bangs, wherever you want it, thicker bangs, whatever. Find a part. Give it a nice triangular section going towards the eyebrows, and pull that hair forward, okay? And then you want to hit it with the steamer. Hit it with the steamer right there. What's that?
Like a clothing steamer?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a clothing steamer. I found mine at Walmart for like $14, and it's this big, and it works. So yeah, you want to pull that forward, and you hit it with the steamer. And make sure it's all good and you heat it up, and you want to do that several times. Eventually, you will redirect that hair to go that way if you needed to do it that way. There's multiple different ways you can do it. You can create an entire bang section purely out of, I've seen people use foam. You can glue foam onto you can scalp the wig right here, put foam onto there, and start creating your own wefts, your own hair, glue that hair onto the foam, and push it, and it'll, depends on what you're looking for. You could do it that way. You can just redirect the hair, have it there already. Totally up to you. I know it's hard sometimes to find styles that you like that are in that kind of manner. So there's options. There's definitely different kinds of ways. I know it's like making with the foam and building your own wefts is a little bit more trickier, but you can definitely do it that way too. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Perfect. Are there any more questions?
Alrighty, cosplay 1 done. Cosplay 2 that's underway. Remind me how and why do I do 2 cosplays each day? Well, at least Sunday is not going to be as bad. It's just going to be the one. Which I have to tell whoever, which is going to be now 2 people because I promised Starbucks. So, but yeah. Remind me why I'm a sane cosplayer sometimes. Not me having a wardrobe malfunction, So, no Rin, however, thankfully I can wear her today instead, since my dumbass decided I'm going to do prejudging at 9 a.m. What the fuck am I thinking? This is me. This is my life.
She asked about cosplay booklets, and I'm
Cosplay
so
books.
sorry to just jump in here, but I am very passionate about a good cosplay booklet. Not only does that display everything because most contests will only give you 3 to 5 minutes with a judge. So you can only talk about so many things in 3 to 5 minutes. If you take all the information, all your progress photos, you put reference photos of your character, you put a picture of you in the costume, print it out in a booklet and give it to us, that gives us more information. You're leaving us with an impression. So it is very good to have a cosplay booklet. Not required, but it is very helpful, especially if you use little tricks when you're sewing, because it'll highlight all the little tricks that you did that we might not catch in prejudging.
I will say also for cosplay booklets, when you first start, you might want to be cosplay. It's a thing you can develop as you go. For me, my books are still not perfect. I always see what's a perfect one, but you just gotta grow. It's still a development.
My first one was a little file holder, and then my most recent one was like a 2-inch binder, and I felt so bad for my touches last year. How to make pretty much it'll be those progress pictures. I personally like to add in little texture samples. So like if you're making something embroidered, you add in a little bit of the embroidery fluff. So you add in a little square of the fabric, you add in a little bit of an applique, just stuff like that. Because I think that definitely
YouTube fashion portfolios, that's a good fix. Yeah, fashion.
So you had it done?
Oh, I have one more thing to add about the cosplay booklets. There is a Facebook group. It's called Cosplay Contest Support Group. It is very, very helpful. If you're very interested in cosplay contests and you want to get better, it's a really good reference for the reference books, the cosplay booklets, because I see multiple people posting on the Cosplay Contest Support Group asking for people's lookbooks, and people will gladly share theirs. If somebody won Best in Show in a contest, message them and say, hey, can I see your progress book? More often than not, we are more than happy to share our cosplay progress books with everyone. Yes?
What was the name of that Facebook page again?
It's called the Cosplay Contest Support Group, and it's a great reference. I think there might even be like a Google Drive with various people's lookbooks that they've uploaded to it for references and examples. Yeah. Sorry.
So you had your dome?
Oh, my dope is don't lie to the judges. So even like the little slick. So say like if you made a whole gown, except the corset you wear over your gown is on. Don't say I made this, even though like, you added to the look. Don't say you made it, because we can tell. We can look at it. You can tell. And that's it.
Alright, so what are your dark films?
Oh man, so I am from like another realm almost of judging. Like I've judged the Geek Down fashion show at Salt Lake City Fan X. So with that, I pay attention to the inspiration and why the person has a connection to that outfit that they made or the cosplay that they made. So what I would say is do have a connection to that character. Otherwise, if you just make something, it's all about technicalities.
Okay.
Maybe some people can do it, but I wouldn't find it very fun. I feel like I would lose motivation. But that's my deal. I don't know if I don't. Maybe you'll think of one.
Yeah.
Come back to me. Come back to me in like 10 minutes.
What's your dark films?
So my do is do your makeup. Seriously, just notice. It's really awesome to see someone love their character enough to come up with a cool custom look for their character. If you cosplay Miku, do a Miku inspired look. We notice. I mean, I do. I think most judges nowadays are looking at makeup. It really completes the look. If you're looking for something extra, try makeup. And if you've never done makeup before, tell the judges that. Say, I researched how to do makeup, I learned how to do makeup, I researched this look, this is my first try, and they take all of that into consideration. It's all about going above and beyond, like pushing yourself. Maybe you didn't like it that much, but you're proud of it because you did it, and the judges will sense that. So just keep going and keep doing and keep improving. Seriously, makeup is awesome, and it is a skill, and it should be included in like your overall look. You should be proud of it. So I suggest makeup, even for men. You know, I say if you're a guy and you want to put on some makeup and you want to say I tried, I did my best. I say that's an added point to the scoreboard. You did something cool and you went out of your comfort zone. So yes.
Just something to add on to what you're saying about makeup.
Yeah.
I'm a theater grad. I have a theater degree. This is literally so important, especially because you're going on stage and the lights can really wash you out.
Yep.
Right, that's a very good point.
Yeah, on stage, it really assists your stage.
Especially Metro stage.
Oh my god, Metro stage, yes.
Yeah, so what's your don't thing?
My don't. I think we really covered like the two biggest ones, like don't lie. That's the big one. Don't lie. So, gosh, can I come back too? It's kind of hard thinking of don't.
Think about it.
Yeah, don't be negative when you're in there. You know, don't. Oh, I don't like how this looks. Don't say that. Don't put yourself down. You know.
You're not gonna notice it until you say it. Sometimes we do notice it, but we think about it. It's like this goes over our head.
Don't be shy, don't be nervous. The judges are just the same as you. Like we've all been here, we've all been judged, we've all been first timers at whatever skills. Yeah, and we are still competing. So
I'm in a competition next week. So.
Oh, you're gonna kill it.
Wow.
seriously, smile, come in with a good attitude. I do think like if someone comes in and they're rude, it does set a vibe. So just come in, smile. We're just like you. Don't even stress it. You know?
And I guess to start off with questioning, well, first of all, great idea, great panel, guys. And I think my question is that, you know, what if someone like, for example, you know, this is like gender bending. So what do you think about gender bending?
For me, I'm judging based on technicalities. I do take creativity into it. I love creativity, so I accept I don't think but my whole thing is technicalities. Oh, you can gender bend this, but to do the heavy pillars. It's just this straight. It's not. Yeah, I don't care about it. It's like, yeah. I have awarded people with the most basic looks, the most basic silhouette, and the most cheapest cotton, but because their stitches are so clean, they won best novices over everyone else. That's me technicalities. I love creativity, so I will take it.
What do you think about that?
Honestly, the person inside, you can be 10 feet tall, cosplaying a tiny little character. As long as the costume on top of you looks good, go for whatever you want.
Yeah, I second that. And that's what cosplay is, right? It's about expressing your love for a certain character or fandom. And I think it's a beautiful thing if you want to translate that in your own way. So,
And what about you, Anna?
I think instincts always be in the lust, because I'm like, well, whatever they all said, I do agree. I think it's a form of creativity, and as long as you're executing your idea well, it doesn't matter what character, like, you know, some people will take two fandoms and they'll put them together and they'll make one outfit. As long as it's a well thought out idea with a good execution, doesn't matter what you cosplay. It's all about having fun. And when you're in a contest, it's about making it like
Well, before I go on to somebody else, you did mention about like cosplay books, but what about, say, reference sheets? That's another example.
Yeah.
That's a part of the book design. So always bring references. If it's an original design, I would say for some cons it's really hard to win something. It can be the best technical everything for the design, but because it's a reference for an anime or a comic convention, you probably won't get anything. But if you enter in a design contest, for example, like her universe.
I don't say this completely, like, I'm not gonna say like wrong, but there are chances for you to win with an original design. I have done it many, many times. I did stick to a lot of original designs when I was first starting, and it's definitely comes down to if you have a picture that you're based off of and you show that, as long as they have something to go on.
Can I piggyback on that? I think it's very important to have a photo. If you're doing an original character or an original design, it is very good to have like that original artist rendering, so we know, all right, they nailed it. Oh my gosh, look, they did the gems, they did the hair, they did the makeup, they did the shoes. Oh my gosh, it matches this original design. Because if you show up and you're like, well, this is my Little Pony OC. I have nothing to go off of. What is your My Little Pony OC, you know? So it's really good to have a picture of what you're making so we can say, oh my gosh, look at the skill it took to take that. Yeah, to make that.
All right, well, thanks a lot, guys, on those questions.
You have a question in the back right here.
Can I come forward? Come closer. Can you closer?
There's a bunch of seats up here.
We love you.
Yeah, come on.
Join.
I
also bad hearing, so I don't know why I performed here. I did have a question about like the original design aspect. What if you have like a character and then you're like, let me slightly redesign that, like maybe fit my body shape?
Most definitely.
This is more like when I say original design, not design.
Like just straight up right. Oh yeah, I don't think so. No, I'll take that as no. I was Daisy, but I wasn't Daisy. Like I had Daisy's aspect, but I was like my own
I saw you
creation
at
of
the opening
Daisy.
ceremony.
Exactly. And that is also a good thing to have. I have the actual picture of what I based it off of, but it's not the original character. So as long as you have that art that you're based off of.
Especially, of course, for a princess on video.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes cons have best original character as an award.
Yes.
Like there's a strict award just for that. So I've given awards to furries who have come in with their fursuits, and their fursuits are just immaculate. Like it is a lot of work to make a fursuit, and they come in with their OC fursuit, and it's like, dang, they blew me away. So it was great to have that OC award.
So I take you've been to some fur cons.
Oh yeah, Megaplex, I'll be there.
Oh, I'll be there in September too. Right there at the Hyatt. By the way, a little before you continue on, it's the Hyatt over in International Drive, and it's not the Hyatt in here.
Oh, okay.
So because there's two different Hyatts.
Do you guys have any more questions on the details? Yes.
Sorry.
Be careful.
Okay, as far as the reference books goes and the progress shots, how many progress shots? I know you said one was good, but like, do you need a picture of me cutting the pattern out and then?
Makes sense. Okay, so say you have a bunch of partners. You want to send them the ones that gives out information. So a picture of you cutting fabric doesn't show much.
Right.
But if there's a picture of you developing your own pattern while cutting the fabric, that's great.
Okay.
Or there's a picture of you have pictures of just crystals, but there's a picture of crystals on the fabric. I'd rather take the second one because it's giving you information that you're doing something with this.
Okay.
Or like, what I like to do is I'll do genuine in progress. Like I'll be sewing something, and like halfway when it's half stitched up, I'll take a picture of that.
Okay.
Just like
informative pictures.
Yeah.
And like, you can also categorize it. So say you're working on pants and then top, put the pants.
Put the pants together and then the top together. Even if you're working on them at like completely different times, like go back and forth. Pants, top, hat, shoes.
Okay.
So how do you find that balance between like, I can do this simple technique perfect, or I can try this more advanced thing that I'm excited about, but it might not come out as well?
Yeah, I'm usually go for the advanced technique first, like trying new things first, and if that doesn't work out, go to like the tried and true. Like I actually just learned a new technique for gathering fabric. In case anybody wants to know, you zigzag stitch it over a piece of embroidery floss and then pull the embroidery floss through. I gathered 27 yards of fabric in like 7 hours. It was amazing. But yeah, learning new techniques is always very, very helpful. And if that technique doesn't work for you, you can always revert back to your old stuff.
Also, talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about it in prejudging. Like I tried to do this and I'm getting there and I'm working on it. You know, here's my work in progress of this stitch. Like, here's what I learned. Never put yourself down, always bring yourself up. So be proud of the things you attempted to. Make it sound good. Like, put a little sugar on it, you know?
Say like, I'm trying this new technique and I hope it works. No, I couldn't say maybe it works. Make it sound like, like wow.
Instead of going,
because we all take into consideration, oh, this is
the new technique. This is the time to brag about yourself.
Yeah.
Go on.
do not be humble.
Yeah.
But within 3 to 5 minutes.
Yes.
And we will be flipping through those billboards throughout the day.
Yeah, and here's another question I'd like to ask.
Oh, sorry, she has a question right behind you.
I was just wondering about like the bragging thing. Is there a point where it's like, I don't know if it's like too bragging, like, is there any point where it gets obnoxious?
I love it when you light up. Go off. Be happy. Be excited. Talk about how awesome you are because it makes us get excited.
Yeah. Be as braggy as you want to be.
I don't think so.
No. Unless you're like actively saying, yeah, I made this, I'm better than you.
Yeah.
You're fine.
If it's positive and informative, I
Yes.
think that's
Positive bragging.
And you know, you bring up a great point because cosplay contests should be for everybody, regardless of body type. You know, you're out there because you're like a little box.
Yes, I just love that. So should we talk about the stage portion?
Yeah, I was gonna just ask if you guys have any strong opinions about how much of a costume is made from scratch versus how much is bought. Like, I like making my own things.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think we expect you to make shoes, but if we do, that would be cool.
Yeah, or even like making your shoes can also cost you to spray paint them to have the stripes on.
Or putting glue covers over
Yeah,
it.
the covers, those would count as making your own shoes. Even
Okay.
putting a little rhinestones on it.
That's an idea.
There's also limits. Like, I hate making gloves. So I just buy my gloves and I'm fully open when I'm in judging. I'm like, I didn't make those gloves. I didn't make them. And then usually the judges just throw that information out.
It's easier to buy.
Yeah. There's some things that's just like, why would you make that? Why would you make your own socks? You know? Things like that.
Yeah, I have seen people who make their own
Yes,
socks.
and it's
You don't need
impressive.
to make your own socks.
Nice.
I dated with this lady, and she made her own fabric by raising spiders. What? She physically said that she made her own fabric by raising spiders and spinning the silk.
Wow.
That was that dragon.
Was there progress pictures?
I don't
I don't
know.
know.
That was Dragon Con though.
Wow.
Nice.
There's no pictures.
Look at those moves.
That's what I want to say.
Dewey made the point, if it depends on the con. So if like ours is 70,
75.
75.
I think most cons are just 70.
Smaller cons you'll see 50%. Bigger cons you'll see 70% of your costume must be handmade. So yeah, so if you come in with like a white bodice on that you didn't make, that could be part of your 30% that was store bought. Something like that. Corset.
Okay, go ahead. Have another one.
Yeah, I wanted to add on to the whole percentage thing. Because I've been doing this for a long time. It would still be different, like expected to be different percentages for upper divisions, right? Like if you're a master and you're expected to make more than
The rule will still be 75, but the awards are high expectation. And so you have a title, but not the best.
Because you've done it before. You should know how to make your own service.
Yeah.
Like that was which I did not know.
It's a higher expectation, but the rule is still 75.
Alright.
Okay.
I gotta add
Do
something
you want to
else.
go into the categories and all the strings and monster? Because a lot of people sometimes. Oh,
Yes, then we go to the nitty-gritty.
question. Sorry, you are good.
No,
How do you constitute like the different percentages? If I don't make my own shoes, is that added to the set, or is like, but I also didn't make my own hair piece? Like, how do you gauge what percentage is what?
There's things we don't expect. We don't expect you to make your own shoes, and we don't expect you to sew your own wigs, and we don't expect you to make your own shoes, I think, or socks. So
There's things that are like pretty exempt from that 30%. Yeah, the 30%, like wigs, shoes. Like if you style your wig, that counts. That counts as making your wig. Like I was saying earlier, if you bedazzle it, you paint it, that constitutes making shoes. I consider things that aren't made if it looks like you bought it off Amazon or grew it on. Like if you, like we were saying before, if you bought a corset and completely bedazzled, that would be about 10% at the very most. Because like if it looks like a thing that you can just get off of Amazon, that would be a percentage. If it looks completely different.
Alright. What do you guys think of, here's something that you might not know about. What do you guys think about 3D printing?
oh, I love it. But I have thoughts about 3D printing. Now 3D printing is getting to the point where you can just download something online, click a button, print it out, and then present it to the judges. So how I love 3D printing. I've been doing 3D printing since 2016. Not so much on the digital creation side. My lovely boyfriend Brandon does that for me. I'll get into that in a second. But if you click a button, print it, paint it, and bring it in, I don't really count that. That's like buying a prop from Amazon, except you have a $3,000 printer, you know? So what I look for in 3D prints, did you sand the paint lines? Oh my gosh, sand it drives me absolutely bonkers because it's like sewing a dress but not hemming it. That is what not sanding a 3D print looks like to me. It's like you didn't completely finish.
Resin printing? Resin printing comes out pretty smooth.
It does?
But you still need to clean it up a little bit. Make
Yes.
it look like it's not pre-printed.
Also, paint doesn't stick well to surfaces that aren't sanded. So if you're not sanding even a resin print, it's not going to stick as well as if you sanded it. Also, come to my paint panel. It's at 4 p.m. right after this. We're going to go into all of that. Sorry. So, but I do give extra credit if you say you designed it yourself. If you went into Blender and you designed it yourself, that's a whole nother plane of existence that just blows me away. I take my boyfriend Brandon into pre-judging with me, and he talks about the process of 3D printing. So just because he's there, I don't try to take credit for what he did. So
Another thing, you said going into Blender, you don't need like big fancy.
Blender's free. Okay. Or Fusion 360. Isn't Blender free? Yeah, and Fusion 360.
But like you don't need to get like the fancy stuff. You can go on like Tinkercad. It's a website. You can download this. You can make your own STLs from there. It gives you like basic shapes together. Like it can be pretty simple.
My next question, you mentioned that, partners are after it. How would that go into judging? Like, if I have my wife leaving ruffles for me because I don't have time for that.
If they're there, it helps, right?
Yeah, and also the fact that you full honesty is also the same. It's like, oh, so someone else made this good.
Communication is a beautiful thing.
With them being there, you're being honest. So I always bring him when he talks about the process because he's the computer guy and I'm the girl. So yeah, I think as long as if your wife comes with you and explains the process, it's added bonus points because you didn't buy it. She made it. That's cool.
Now, if you have a grandma who made the whole costume, you walk in saying, I made this. Don't do that.
Well, we had in Metrocon 2021 pre-judging, we had a gentleman come in and he was wearing the costume that his mom made or girlfriend, and that was perfectly acceptable. Being a model for somebody else is perfectly acceptable as long as the person that made it is there too. So if your wife wants to make you a costume and she doesn't want to be in the contest, you can wear it, she can come in and talk about it, and then, you know. Well, you get to walk on stage, you get to be the one glamorous.
You guys bring up a good point. You guys bring up a great point. Think about family cosplay.
Love it.
Nice. So that's a good idea about how when family will usually go into the contest as well. Like in best group. Good point.
Yeah, so typically in contests you have 4 different categories. You have your youth category, your novice, your journeyman, and your master. And it goes by how many awards you won. So how do you want to go about this? So every contest is different. Yay! Let's talk about ours. Let's talk about Metrocon. Metrocon! Yay!
So for youth, they're youth.
They have to be aged 14 and under.
Yes.
Oh.
For less than 2 major awards.
Nice.
Major, do we want to take a
Yeah, major. Is that your question?
I was like,
okay.
what does that mean?
So if you, let's say you walk into Metrocon and one of our mascots gives you their mascot excellence award, you can still get on this. If you walk into a convention, you can be at a tiny convention and you're like, whee, and you got judge's award.
Alright.
You're still a novice.
If you won best in show, best masters, best journeyman, best not best, you bump up. That's
if
an
you
award.
win best novice, you go up to journeyman.
Journeyman is 2 to 5 major awards. Masters is 5 plus. It also depends on what category you're in. So say like if you enter as novice because you have no awards, you never entered before, but your skill level is at masters, and then you win best masters in that show, you're now a master's student.
Congrats!
Yeah, congrats.
If you're
bumped up.
competed, but you're a professional sewer, judges might stick you in master or journeyman.
Could you enter, like let's say you're registering for contest? Could you put, like, let's say you've never done sewing before, you've never done a contest before, or you've only done a couple, could you choose to go to a higher category?
Yeah, you can always choose to go higher.
For me, I personally would like to go by the first time because we'll still see. Oh, obviously this person's not wrong. We'll see. Because I know there's also when I enter a contest, there are people who are entering novice because they've just never done a contest before. And other novices are they're paying the contest plus the judges are not. They can clearly tell this person is just never done a contest before.
Alright, here's a good question for all of you. Here's a good question, and I think I'll do this as my very last question as well. What's your criteria to be like the whole thing, best in show?
That's a really good question.
That is a very good question.
So for me, I don't know, I should be going
Yeah, we
first.
can
I feel like I was, I'm sorry. For me, it's showing you have mastery in a little bit of everything. That's what I like to see. Every judge is a little different, that's why there's 4 of us. So we all think about our thoughts, we all collaborate. But for me, I like to see a little bit of mastery in everything. I can talk about Metrocon 2021, our best in show. We were given her best in show because she showed wig mastery, she had her makeup done, she had fully lined costume, she had 3D prints, she made a plushie, she used airbrushing, she had lights. It was incredible. So she showed us that she was able to take a little bit of everything and put it into one costume. That's what I personally like to see. Yeah, that's Leonaka.
Oh,
Leonaka.
yeah, and everything is like, it's still everything, but everything's done well. So it's like, oh, I did a bit of everything so well.
It shows you're a master at every single medium. That's what I personally like to see. If you add in a little bit of extra, like, hey, I made a plushie. Hey, you know, I made my wig light up. That's incredible, and it just adds. It's like a little icing on the cake. That's what I like to see for Best in Show. Is a little bit of every skill done
What would you
perfectly.
see for Best in Show? What would you see for Best in Show?
There's also a creativity aspect. Where it's on Cinderella. It's not just like everything caught in the silver cotton.
Or if you do like a transformation dress.
Nice!
That would make
Two dresses in one? That's just
Oh, so what would you see for Best in Show?
Okay, so I was talking about just like, let's do like similar spectrum of creativity where we just embellish think how we create, how we system of works. So creativity for me was more like you have all these best technicalities, but can you push it?
Best in Show for me, they are the total package. They walk in the room and you go, wow. You look up close and you go, wow. They are explaining how they made everything and you go, wow. Like, it's just something like what Apple was saying. They have the shinings, they have the lights, they have the sewing, they have the armor, they have the this, that. You don't have to have all of those to win Best in Show, obviously. But if you have multiple different aspects of your costume, they all are done extremely well, you can't say no.
Thanks a lot.
Even like a little bit, like even just like if you're making a big giant ball gown, but you decide that you want to make a little piece out of foam, you're showing your foam work just in that little hair piece or whatever. So it doesn't have to be a giant armor build with a ball gown and your wig lights up and all this. No, it's just showing little teeny tiny technical aspects throughout the costume. You don't have to overthink it with, oh my god, I have to do this checklist. No, it's just more so like, hey, look at these shoes. I made boot covers and I 3D printed this. And, you know, I airbrushed this. Different.
Thanks a lot, guys. Great answer to the question.
Give us film quality.
Yeah.
But not the movies.
Not Beauty and the Beast.
Are we going to talk about that dress? Okay, alright, we'll talk about it.
Beauty and the Beast.
The live action case, so yeah, not only design wise, but not 18th century rope design, like World Alpha says. I seen the dress in person, the edges are all off and they're frayed. That's why
No.
Yes.
Yeah. So I saw it on the display next to Sandy Cowell's costume from Cinderella. So it was sitting next to the wedding outfit for Prince/King. So it's like, I'm like, wow, look at this fully pleated outfit. It's like perfectly cut and everything next to this frame dress. So give us film quality for Best in Show, but not like that. Not that film. Look at that.
Any other film with that?
Yeah, give us Cinderella. Give us Cinderella.
But they photoshopped Cinderella's dress.
Just the color.
Yeah. To give it the more.
But the same.
I have like a little thing that I can add as an example of like how to take something simple and make it extraordinary is I was building a Sonic hoodie. Oh, thank you! So it's a very simple outfit, but one day I think I'm going to compete in it, even though it's really simple. And I say that I'm going to compete with it because it was the first time I've ever attempted to 3D print. So I sat down at a computer and I did my 3D print and I tried my best and I did it. And so I think that's why I'm going to enter it. Not because it's extraordinary, not because it's anything to write home about, but because I did something that I'm really, really proud of and I want to share it. So I think that that's like the basis of why you should enter a cosplay contest is just to share all the hard work that you did in your costume.
Of course. In other words, you guys just put it perfectly. when you go into costume contest, you really just want to make sure that it's just like this is it. You're being out there. Even if you win or not, you just have done it.
Yeah. Oh, we can also talk about how great it is when you compete because you meet more people who are like my friends.
Yes.
That's how we met. That's how I made all my friends for
And then you learn from each other. You're inspired to be even better than before.
Right.
Like I entered at Supercon years ago.
Nice.
And like there, like someone entered that team in it, and I never beat it before. And then since then on, I just beat it.
right?
Yeah. And now I left beating everything I do. It's great.
Wow.
You were like one of the four masters.
There's like only 4 masters in the world.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
me, you, and then a couple others. It was me, you, Christina, and then MH Design.
Yeah.
I think it was a volunteer.
Nice.
That's the year my grand. That's the day my granddad died.
Well,
It's also weird, because I remember from the story, but everyone's like always together. It's just having a nice bonding moment backstage, because you're all nervous wrecks together.
Yeah.
Like, why be nervous about stuff when I can be like keeping my pants with another person at the same time?
And you won an award for it too. Well deserved.
Yeah. So you could say costume contest is like networking again. So it's like you really make friends and you really start to embrace a community of sorts.
Actually, that's what my question was like. Is there any special point where like you being a lot of houses, like you know everyone else?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And like, is there anything else that comes with that? Is there anything else that you so lucky to have from people or like anything else? Like,
Yeah, you definitely get to know, especially when you get up to the masters category. You will be in competitions where there are only 1 or 2 other masters aside from you. There have been competitions that I've done where I have to compete against my friends, like Emma. And I don't like competing against my friends, like any other random people. But my friends, I'm kidding. But my friends, I really hold dear to my heart. It gets to a point where it's just like I don't want to win because I want you to win, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, sometimes it can be a little bit of a problem, especially with siblings.
That's why you meet people at cosplay contests and you team up with them and you become the boss battle. Like that's honestly what happened with my friend Amanda. She was behind me in line at Metrocon 2019 and she was like, I love your costume. And I was like, I love your costume. And now, we won Combat 2021 together. So honestly, like meet people, make friends, share your techniques and team up, man. Who says you have to go at each other? Team up.
So again, that's like best group.
Yeah.
Question, but you guys talk about groups. If I make character A and my friend makes character B, but the characters are connected, do we go as a group or individually?
You can. Yeah, you can choose to do it. That's actually eligible to be separate or together. Yeah.
I'm trying to get it's so much
Or just
more fun.
share skills. Like say like you do like part of A and B and then do
There was a quote-unquote group of friends last year. They all competed separately, and I was so mad because if they were in a group, they would have lost the competition. But we only were able to pick one or 2 of them for the award selection that we had. And it was so upsetting because I wanted all of them to win because they were all happy.
Oh, was it the...
So we have 5 minutes left. Does anyone have any questions, even for specifically Metrocon costume contest? Who's entering this year? Okay, cool. You only have 3 minutes to prejudge your costume.
No.
You only have 3 minutes because of time.
Don't be late.
Yeah, don't.
Don't be late, yeah.
Never be late.
do you give niche characters more like, if you see like cosplay that's like overdone or whatever, do you judge it differently than someone like random, I've never seen that cosplay?
I will 100% say, I have seen cosplays where it's like, I'm just going to say Cinderella because she's on the brain right now, and Cinderella walks in, and I'm like, oh, Cinderella, okay, you're pretty Cinderella. And then I'll like look at it closer, I'll be like, oh, my friend did this butterfly a different way. And I'll like think of them, and I won't compare them and like bring one down over the other, but I'll think of other techniques to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Then, like you think about, there's other ways to do things. And like That's the only thing I would say about like different people doing the same costume. Can you still enter a costume? Can you still enter? That is a good question. Christian, do we have any more slots?
So, I'm going to tell you this. I believe we are out of slots. Try anyway.
Try anyway.
Because people back out all the
On
time.
Sunday, do make sure you keep that in consideration. Some people don't, so slots open up.
Right.
So definitely keep checking that.
Check Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Anyway, because sometimes people don't show up.
Yeah, people just won't show up. People will be like, oh, I'm here and I'm ready tomorrow. And they'll be like, oh, I bought a one-day ticket. I can't do that for Sunday.
Yeah, right.
So just take somebody else.
I'm going to have to leave. I have a paint panel to get to. If you guys are free for the next. All right, so hi everyone. I'm Abra. I go by Abradorable online on Instagram. That's typically how you can find me and find my work. So, thank you for coming to my cosplay painting tips and tricks. Primarily in this panel, we're going to be focusing on spray paint and airbrushing. I feel like those are kind of like still, a lot of cosplayers don't really know the chemistry behind spray paint, how it works. Like, yeah, we know we shake it and we spray it, but there is a lot to know about spray paint. And knowing the ins and outs and the chemistry behind spray painting is going to help you when you're painting things like 3D prints or giant pieces of armor or a prop or something like that. And then as far as airbrushing goes, it's what I get a lot of questions about. What airbrush do I need? How do I get started? What paint? So we're going to go over all of that today in this panel. So to get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been cosplaying since 2008. I started my career as a scenic painter in 2016 with Walt Disney World. I was on the Avatar project. Then I worked at Volcano Bay, I worked over at Universal Hollywood, and I am currently at Busch Gardens as their scenic artist and fabricator. So I just wanted to throw that out there so you guys understand that I am a professional. This is all coming from a professional standpoint, so please don't get mad at me when I talk about safety. I am going to go into a little bit of safety behind paint because I think that's important. So yeah, don't get mad. I'm sorry, that's coming, safety's coming. Here's a couple of examples of my work. I do a lot of faux finishing. I also do a lot of airbrushing on figures. Yeah, that's what kind of scenic painting is all about. Also, if you have any questions about scenic painting, like if it's something that you're interested in, hit me up. Let's talk about it because I think it's a really awesome industry and a really awesome field that a lot of people don't know about. There are opportunities to be a painter in this world that's not just rolling paint on a wall. So here's the contents of today's panel. We're going to go over safety, then we're going to talk about spray painting, then we're going to have airbrushing, and then we're going to do Q&A. So, safety while spray painting, always spray in a well-ventilated area. You want to make sure you're spraying somewhere out in the open or in a garage or with fans and things like that. You're also going to want to wear proper safety equipment when you're spray painting, wear a respirator, wear gloves. So, this is something that I noticed. Hi, Reen. This is something that I noticed a lot of mistakes being made with cosplay. There are different types of respiratory safety. So you have your dust mask, and what the dust mask is going to do is it's going to protect you from particles, larger particles, things like that. It's not going to protect you from vapor. So if you're airbrushing something that's automotive, that's two-part, it's going to get in your lungs if you're just wearing a dust mask. So I suggest wearing a half face plate with filters on it, and that's going to protect you from the vapors, and it's going to protect you from all the components of the paint, the particles. So, but then, you get into the full face plate, and you get into the air purifying respirators, and those are more for automotive, but I wanted to throw those out there because it is some part of safety. So the biggest mistake I see cosplayers make when they are airbrushing and when they are spray painting, and I cannot press this issue enough, the pancake filters are only for sanding. They will not protect you against the vapors from the spray paint. If you are wearing the pancake filters for airbrushing or spray painting, you are still inhaling the fumes of the spray paint. It is still going to get inside your body. So what I suggest is the filters and pre-filters. They're relatively cheap. You can get them at Home Depot, you can get them on Amazon. The gray part that you see inside has charcoal, and that's going to neutralize the vapors that are getting into your body. And then the cotton pieces on top, they go on top of the silver piece, and they filter out the particles. So you're getting both. You're getting protection from vapors and you're getting protection from particles. That is my favorite because it's the cheapest. It's the easiest to get your hands on. You can get them on Amazon, you can get them at Home Depot. So that's what I recommend when you're spray painting or airbrushing. The pancake filters, again, I will reiterate, they will only protect you from particles. They will not protect you from vapors. So please do not wear them when you are airbrushing or spray painting. Thank you. So spray paint, when to use it. The best time to use spray paint is when you want to cover a large surface. It has great coverage. So if you're spraying a giant prop or something like that, you're going to get the best coverage for the least amount of effort and the least amount of money. You're not going to get brush strokes. So if you're using spray paint, you're not going to get, the ridges from your brush. It's going to make a nice even surface most of the time. We'll get into that. And it also has great adhesion to surfaces. So sometimes acrylic paint will stick to plastic really well. That's a good time to use spray paint. So it's going to stick to the surface way better than like an acrylic or a latex would. Types of spray paint. I told you there's a lot to learn about spray paint that a lot of us don't really realize. We pick up our can at Walmart and we just spray, but there are different types of spray paint. You have your general purpose, which is primarily what we see at Walmart when we go and we pick it up and we spray. Hi guys! You have your lacquer. It's durable, it's tricky to use, and it requires many, many coats. It's also a little bit more expensive because it has a little bit of a film and enamel on it. Epoxy. Epoxy has great adhesion, but it does have a lot of harsh airborne chemicals. My personal favorite is enamel. It's great for outdoor, it's great for the sun, it's great for when you handle a lot, when you're handling your prop. I actually painted my staff with enamel because if I were to like drag it across the ground, it creates like a nice surface, a little shell, hard shell there, so it doesn't scratch as easily. Acrylic, that's water-based. So they do make water-based spray paint. It's a little bit more pricey. It's nice for, I don't use it, but my friends use it because it has the same quickness of coverage, but it's also less harsh. There's not as many chemicals. You don't have to worry about it's not flammable. That's what I'm trying to say. And oil-based. Oil-based spray paint is very durable. It's probably more durable than the enamel. It will not come off, but it takes 2 days to dry. So prepping for spray paint. This is very, very, very important. When you have an object, so say you want to paint a hard hat. We'll use the hard hat as an example. If you just sprayed that hard hat with spray paint, it might chip off. So, to ensure that it does not chip or crack or flake off, we want to sand the area first. And what sanding does is it creates little dips and valleys, little teeny tiny dips and valleys, and then the paint sticks inside those valleys better. So it's a lot harder for the paint to come off if you sand your object first. I also recommend that after you sand it, you're cleaning it. Soap and water is fine, but I like 99% alcohol or acetone or lager. No, not lager, don't use it. Denatured alcohol or 99% alcohol is the best because it evaporates quickly and it cleans the surface and gets it ready for the paint. Protect your area. Obviously, you need to lay down something so you're not getting overspray on the floor. You don't want to get it on the walls or on the grass. Dad might be mad. And ventilation. I keep stressing ventilation, but it's because I care about your health. I want your lungs to stay safe so you can spray paint your entire life for the next 50 years. On the note of sanding, whatever you're going to spray paint, It doesn't have to be 80 grit. So I guess I'll go into sandpaper a little bit in case you guys don't know about sandpaper. The lower the number, the higher the grit. So the more scuffs you're gonna get in it. So when I'm prepping a surface, I usually use 220 grit. It gives enough of a texture on the surface, enough for the paint to stick in, but not enough that when you spray over it, you're gonna see a bunch of scratch marks. So I like 220 for prep. Oh yeah, here we go. I did this twice apparently. So scuff the surface, clean the surface, make sure it's dry. That's why I said I like 99% alcohol, because 99% alcohol evaporates really quickly, so you can just spray right after. And prime. Ooh, priming is very important. Some people think, oh, just get a 2-in-1 spray paint and I don't need to prime it. I suggest priming it. What priming does is it preps the paint for the preps the surface for the paint. It has a really nice adhesion. So if you paint something with a primer, it will attract dirt if you don't seal it with something. So primer is meant to adhere the paint to it. It is sticky. It will never not be sticky because it's meant to hold the paint to the primer. Also, I'll get into primer. Sorry, can you tell this is the first time I posted this panel? I'm sorry, my brain is fluttering. With primer, it's really nice because it makes the surface white. So you're gonna get your true color of whatever you're trying to spray. Ooh, this is something that I really wanted to cover because I don't think a lot of people understand that the weather affects spray paint. So, if you're spraying spray paint at above 85 degrees outside, it will crack. I'm sorry, we live in Florida. It's hot. Try not to spray it in direct sunlight because what happens is you're spraying it and then it's drying and it shrinks and it creates cracks on the surface. And it'll dry too quickly because of the heat. All the fumes are just evaporating so quickly that it cracks. Too cold. We might not have this as a problem unless you're painting in the winter, but it does the opposite. Instead of the heat where it expands and creates cracking, it contracts and creates bubbles and it starts to mush and gets veiny and it's not pretty. So anything under 60 degrees, you might face a too cold spray paint issue. Paint is very finicky. You also have humidity. And this is a big problem in Florida, obviously. So don't spray paint when it's raining. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have a fog effect on your paint. It's going to start to ghost. And that's because the rain or the water molecules are getting into the paint and causing it to ghost like that. So if you ever did a clear coat and it starts to get foggy, it's too humid outside. Maybe do it in the midday or bring it inside into your garage. Just make sure it's well ventilated. And rain. So I say rain, but I mean any kind of water. It will start to bead. If there's water on the surface and you spray paint over it, or if water gets on the surface while the paint is still wet, you'll see beading in your spray paint. Ooh, this was something I had to learn the hard way with spray paint. So you have 10 to 40 minutes in between each coat. If you wait longer than 40 minutes from the time you started spray painting to the time you stop, your spray paint is starting to let off chemicals. It's starting to catalyze. It's starting to harden. It's releasing fumes. And it's starting to cure. So if you spray paint after it starts to cure, which is at the 40-minute mark, you're spray painting and the first coat is releasing all the fumes onto the top coat and they can't get out. So that's why you get wrinkles and things like that. So to avoid that, say you started spray painting, you got 2 coats in and you had a snack, you forgot about your project. Now it's an hour since you started. Don't spray it, don't spray it, don't do it. It's just gonna ruin it and you're gonna have to sand it. You will get that wrinkling, unless it's an effect you want. But After that 40-minute mark up to an hour, you're in the danger zone. Anything after an hour, like, just wait. It takes 2 days to cure, unfortunately. You're gonna have to wait 48 hours to spray it again because the fumes are being released for up to 48 hours after you start spraying. So you will find that wrinkling will happen a lot of times. For example, I spray painted before I went to bed. I woke up, I was like, I think I can give it another coat. I ruined my whole prop because the whole thing just wrinkled. I should have just waited 2 days to let it all cure. But that's what's going on if you've ever had that wrinkling happen. That's what's happening. The fumes from underneath the bottom coats are releasing and the top coat is there and not letting them out, so it wrinkles. So common spray paint mishaps. Drips. Too much paint in one area. It means you just focused in one area too long. So now there's too much paint and it starts to drip. Speckles. If you get little speckles in it, like little confettis, that means that there was dirt and debris inside your spray paint or on your surface or in the air. So if you spray paint something and then you go sand, well, now all your sand particles are getting on your spray paint and now you have speckles all over your spray paint. Fish eyes. That means you didn't clean the surface. That means you might have applied some lotion to your skin, handled the object that you were touching, and now the spray paint is not attaching to the surface and you're getting fish eyes. Craters. Okay. Craters, I think the most popular way to get craters in spray paint is by not prepping your foam properly and then spraying over top of foam. Because you're spraying over top of a porous surface. Foam is porous. So you're spraying on top of the porous surface and it's sinking into the pores. So now you get all these little craters inside your foam. Any kind of like air pockets on your surface, the air will release and it'll cause that crater. Oh, so I have a nice little video on how to spray. The best results, so for the best results, oh, I guess it's just going. It's just going. It was supposed to autoplay, but yeah, go right there. Think about it. So the best way to spray, shake your can for 1 minute until you hear the ball jingle up and down, spray, like shake it for 1 minute. I know it sucks. I don't know, watch a YouTube video and shake it. Pretend you're a robot. I wish the video would work, but it's not working. Maybe I'll press play again. Ah, there you go. So I like to pretend I'm a robot. When I do this motion, I pretend I'm a nice little robot. And I'm going back and forth, and back and forth, like a little machine. Shh, 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 shh. Robot. That's what I always called it at work. I call it doing the robot when I'm spraying. You always want to start and stop off of your object. If you start on your object, you're going to get a lot of paint in one spot where you start, and if you end on your object, you're going to get a lot of paint right there. So I always suggest starting off the object spraying and ending, like lifting your finger when you're away from the object. That's going to help you not get drips. It's going to create an even surface, because when you start to press that top, a lot of paint comes out. Oh yes, and make sure you hold it approximately 10 inches away from the surface. If you hold it too close, you're going to get drips. If you hold it too far away, you're going to get uneven paint all over your surface. Oh no, please stop. Ah, spray paint tip! This was something really fun that I just tried that worked really well. So you can do ombre with spray paint. And it's really fun and really cute. So what you do is you apply your base color. So my base color was the yellow. And then while the base color is still wet and tacky, you spray your next color. And then while that is still kind of wet and tacky, spray your next color. And they will fade into one another. If you notice that there's a hard line, go over with the color, so for example, the base color, if you notice a hard line on that lime green right there,
there's a hard line, you can take that lime green and go over the dark green with it a couple of times, and while the paint is still kind of wet, it'll start to blend in with one another. It does take practice and a light hand, but it can be done. You can ombre with spray paint. I will recommend stopping and starting off of the object and keeping 10 inches away. That's going to get you the most paint with a very even distribution. So you can just make sure it's still wet while you're doing it, because then they'll start to kind of morph into one another. If you have any questions, maybe I should make a tutorial on it. I've never made a YouTube video, but maybe I should. Okay, clear. I love clear. Everyone always forgets to clear, but clear is my favorite. I just love clear. So there's all different kinds. There's typically there's 3 different kinds of clear. You have gloss, satin, and matte. Depending on what you want to achieve, you're going to pick your clear to go with the look. So gloss is really nice for things that are shiny. Gold doubloons or something that's wet. You know, maybe your sword comes out of the water and you want it to look shiny because it's wet. But there's not very many objects in nature that are really glossy when you really think about it. So I rarely ever use gloss. If you do want a nice shine, I suggest trying a satin. You're going to get minimal light reflection, but you're still going to get a little bit of a shine, so it's still going to look new and pristine. I actually used satin on my staff, so it does reflect a little bit of light to make you know, like, wow, this is new, this is shiny, she just got it. But I didn't want to go with gloss because when you take pictures, flash, light, it just reflects too much. Also, I don't think that this would look wet, so I didn't choose gloss. Matte. Matte is probably the best, like, overall, because if you want anything that's dirty or looks like it's used, or if you really want to focus on detail, matte is not going to take away from your detail. Gloss is going to be really distracting and light and stuff, and you might not see certain details in your armor plate or in your prop, but matte is going to show it all off. You're not going to see a shine. It's going to look old and busted with your paint job, so I always suggest matte. And why should you use a clear? Well, let me tell you. It protects the surface. So if somebody comes up to you with like something sharp, their cosplay grazes you, you're going to have a nice shell on top of your paint so it won't scratch off as easily. It's also really good for like you can clean it. You can clean. So if something gets on it, dust, debris, whatever, you're cleaning that clear coat. You're not cleaning your acrylic paint or your paint job or your detail work off of it. All that stuff, that hard work that you put in detailing your prop, that is underneath the clear coat. So you know it's going to stay pristine. You're only cleaning the clear on it off. So, and we're going to go into airbrushing now. A lot of people ask me, you know, where do I start? I want to start airbrushing. I want to airbrush my props. I want to airbrush my cosplay. I want to airbrush makeup. Where do I start? Well, kind of a loaded question. It depends on what you want to do. So there's 3 different kinds of airbrushes. There's your gravity feed, your side feed, and your siphon feed. Your gravity feed and your side feed are for very small projects. You're only able to put in a little bit of paint into the gravity feed and the side feed because only whatever can fit inside that cup. That's the only amount of paint that you're able to use. So it's great if you're painting tiny models, if you're painting your face, if you're doing makeup, it's great. You just put a couple of drops in there and it gets you through your whole face, or it gets you through that, like your little tiny, like Warhammer model. But if you're on a big project, like what I do with the big figures or a big prop and you want to airbrush, you're probably going to want to go with siphon feed. And the difference between a siphon feed and a gravity feed is the gravity feed has a cup at the top and uses gravity to take the paint down into the gun, whereas the siphon feed, you have a little cup on the bottom that you fill with your paint and a tube, and it sucks it up into your airbrush and it stays. So paint lasts a lot longer in the tube than it does in the gravity feed. And it's cool to have both, you know, if you're switching colors a lot, it's good to have a gravity feed because you can quickly change between colors. If you're using like a big surface that you want to do shading and highlighting on, siphon feed. So, in your siphon feed, you have two different kinds of siphon feeds. You have your dual action and your single action. And I'm sorry if I'm glossing all over all this very quickly. I want to get to make sure you guys can ask questions. So, your dual action means that you're able to push down on the trigger and pull back. So you're controlling how much air and how much paint is flowing through your airbrush gun. If you're just using a single action, you cannot control the amount of air and the amount of paint coming out. It's all going to be the same. So it's really good if you want the same consistency of paint throughout your entire project. But I prefer the dual action because I like to control how much paint comes out in certain areas and shading. Like sometimes you just want a hint of shading, sometimes you want to go really deep, and dual action is good for that. But if you want everything to look exactly the same, single action is your guy. So there are different types of airbrush paints, just like with spray paint, you have different types of airbrush paint. You have acrylic, alcohol, and oil urethane. Acrylic is primarily what a lot of modelists use, what a lot of cosplayers use. It's just like painting anything else. It's acrylic paint, water-based, all that good stuff. Alcohol-based can only be cleaned with alcohol. It doesn't come off very well, but it's really great for makeup. If you want your makeup to last all day, alcohol makeup, it does the job really well. And then oil and urethane. Oil and urethane is really only used with automotive. So if you're airbrushing a car, or if you're airbrushing a motorcycle or a helmet or something with automotive paint, that's when you're going to use oil or urethane. So it's not really used in cosplay that often. Oh yeah. Anything with the consistency of milk or thinner can be sprayed through an airbrush. I know it's kind of interesting to think about, but really you can spray any acrylic paint into an airbrush. It doesn't have to be a specific kind of airbrush paint to be able to be sprayed, but I do recommend if you're just getting started to stick with specifically airbrush paint to go through your airbrush gun. Okay, so you have your airbrush, you're all set. You have your dual action siphon feed Iwata Eclipse airbrush. Well, what do I need next? You need a compressor. So for cosplay and crafts, a low pressure compressor is all you need. You don't need anything fancy. I have an Iwata Ninja. I think it's like 120 at Hobby Lobby. It goes up as high as I need it to go for cosplay, and it goes as low as I need it to go for makeup. So it's really good in between. PSI, or pounds per square inch, should be around 20 to 30 or 50 to 60. So that's the amount of air going through your gun. That's the PSI you're going to want. The higher the PSI, the more air that will be pushed through your gun. So the higher you crank that baby up, the more air and the more paint that's going to fly out. Higher compressors will give you more. So these are specifically for like crafting and makeup. So just like we did with the ombre, I'm going to give you a couple of painting tips. I used Mikuni.cosplays examples because I think that she did a really great job displaying the techniques that I'm trying to convey. So I just want to give a shout out to Mikuni. She's the girl. So shading is used to add depth. It brings in material being shaded. So shading brings things in. It distracts your eye. So if you have a mistake, put a little shading over top of it. It's going to hide it. For realistic looks, try to use as little of black as possible. I cannot stress this enough. Using a pure black rarely exists in nature. So if you're spraying pure black on a white piece of armor, it is going to look like a bunch of smoke hit it. Like it was on fire and now it has smoke around it. And it's just, it would be a lot softer if you chose a gray or a brown instead. It's very distracting when you put a very dark color on top of a very light color. You want to gradually go down to the darker color. You don't want to just have your base color and boom, black. So try mixing black or dark brown into your base to darken the tone. For cartoon or whimsical looks though, black is really good to add contrast. Like when you think of like comic books and cell shading and things like that, it gives a more whimsical feel. So if you do want that, you do want to look like a comic book character, or what is the video game where they all are cell shaded? Borderlands. Black is great. Like use a lot of black. It makes it look very cartoony. But if you're going for something realistic, like armor or something like that, you're rarely going to see black used. When I painted my Warhammer cosplay, I used very little black. I mostly used very dark brown because it shades and it adds like a little bit of dirt. Experiment with raw and burnt umber, shades of dark brown, and that's going to give you a depth and a dirtier look. So, airbrush highlighting. Highlighting is very important as well. Highlights are used to draw attention. It brings out the material being highlighted. So it's going to be the most in-your-face look. Whatever you highlight, it's going to draw attention. So you're brightening it up. Your eye is drawn to highlights. So if you made a mistake, don't highlight it. Highlights are good indicators that something is sharp, spiky, shiny, damaged, or sparkly. It draws your eye. Too many highlights will also look unnatural. Don't go crazy. Don't highlight this, don't highlight that. Because then when you're done, it's like when you take a yellow highlighter to a book, it's like, well, now everything is highlighted. What do I look at? So be very minimal with your highlights. Less is more with highlights. And too bright of a highlight will also be very distracting. I suggest adding a little bit of white to your base paint to lighten it. So don't just go straight to white. Same with black. Don't use straight black, don't use straight white. Add a little bit of white to your base, add a little bit of black to your base, and it's going to darken it without being too distracting and overwhelming in comic book feel. Same thing with using the pure black. When you use pure white, it's going to create a cartoon and whimsical effect. So, with all that said, you're done airbrushing. It is very important to clean your gun. I've seen lots of people who buy these really nice airbrush guns. They've spent $200–300 on an airbrush gun and they're like, it doesn't work, I used it one time, it doesn't work. I'm like, nah baby, you just didn't clean it. So you need to clean your airbrush gun after every use. Spraying 99% alcohol through your airbrush gun is fine, it works. But every once in a while, you need to take it completely apart, go through all the pieces, and clean them with little teeny tiny brushes. You can get them at Harbor Freight for like $2. And they'll help you go through all of the components that you need to clean. The main thing that gets clogged, the biggest problem that you see with airbrush guns not working, is there's paint in the nozzle. That gets clogged so easily. Especially in Florida where it's really hot outside. If you stop airbrushing for like 10 minutes outside, your paint inside your gun is gonna dry up and it's gonna gunk up. And so if you're planning on not using your gun for a little while outside, I suggest running 99% alcohol through it to clean it out, because your paint will dry within 10 minutes inside of your gun and then you'll be like, oh my god, I left and now it doesn't work. So just run 99% alcohol through it. Take it apart, clean it apart. Definitely clean out the nozzle. That's going to be what gunks up the most. And then use lube. Use airbrush lube. Anytime you completely clean it, you disassemble it, put it around where the nozzle is and put it where the trigger is. It stops the trigger from tightening up and not pulling back, and it keeps the nozzle clear and clean of debris. So, I got most of my information on the Iwata website. It's iwata-airbrush.com. Everything that I covered today you can find on the Iwata website. It's also what I like to use. I like to use Iwata airbrushes and compressors. So I suggest checking out Iwata if you have any further questions. Okay, I made it. Q&A.
the impulsive decision that I would try this song for you first. Because it's a little lower, and I'm going to try to sing it even lower than I usually sing it.
Oh God. Oh no.
You guys gotta bear with me because it's very tough singing this low late in the day. So if you know the words, I need you to sing with me. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day to find our long forgotten gone. I tried. Hold on. This is what happens when you take a guitar from sunny and dry Los Angeles to wet and moist Tampa. The pines were roaring on the height. The winds were moaning in the night. The fire was red, it flaming spread. The trees like torches blazed with light. Sing with me one more time, Metrocon. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day to find our long forgotten gone. Welcome to the Tower Tour. To sea in the name of the ship was a filly of tea. Winds blew up, burned out and down. Glory, glory, glory. Soon may the waterman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the train is done, we'll take our leave and go. 40 days before the boat. He did this in Metrocon too. Soon may the drink of sugar and tea and rum. Oh, when the time is done, we'll take our leave and go. For 40 days or even more, the line went slack, then attack once more. Boats were lost, there were only 4, still that wheel did go. Soon may the drink of sugar and tea and rum. One day when the time is done, we'll take our leave and go. You got it? Yeah. No line was cut, the whale was free. The tide was now green. He belonged to the whaleman's creed. Took that ship into you. Sing it. Soon may the drink of sugar and tea and rum. One day when the time is done, we'll take our leave and go. As far as I've heard, the flight's still on, the line's not cut, and the whale's not gone. All that next is a regular call to encourage the captain to go. Soon may the drink of sugar and tea and rum. One day the time is done, we'll take our leave. Barbenheimer next weekend. Okay. I'm gonna play an original song. And I'm gonna take this opportunity to shamelessly tell you guys that I came out with a new original song today. Yes, you did. It's called Fight the Tide, featuring our other good sea shanty buddy, Colin McGinnis. And the YouTube algorithm has been very unkind to us lately, so all of you should go and watch it on YouTube. Just put it on repeat and don't tell YouTube that I told you to do that. So Fight the Tide is off of my new original album that's coming out called Children of Night, and this is also a song from that album. Inside my soul, I fight my hardest, hoping it won't take control. And still I taste the poison, the weight of all my wounds. My ill-infected voice from breathing in the fumes. I can time. 15% of this show will be John tuning his guitar. 15%.
You were supposed to talk and be charismatic while I do that, and instead you're drawing attention to it.
Fortnite dance.
All right. I see you. I see you.
All right, John, is that enough for you? I've entertained the kids long enough.
Every time you do that joke, I get more sick of it. But
You're telling me.
That's okay. I'll get over it. Hydrate.
Hydrate! Yeah!
Okay. All right. We normally don't try to play this song, but we're gonna goof off a little bit today.
Yeah, we're gonna goof off.
We have a big concert tomorrow at Main Events. If you guys can make it, obviously, we'd love to see you. We'll be playing some different songs at that concert.
What time?
5 o'clock. 5 o'clock at Main Events tomorrow. Yep. Hope to see you all there.
Is a concert.
But in the meantime, since this is a little bit more of a smaller room, a smaller show, we thought that we'd play some songs that we don't normally play. Is that okay with you guys?
Real intimate room. It's like a circle of just vibes. So if it goes really poorly.
And speaking of just vibes, sing along with me. Hakuna Matata.
Oh my God, yes! Yes!
Wonderful phrase.
Hakuna Matata. Ain't no passing
Passing
There means
no worries for the rest of your days.
It's our problem free philosophy. Hakuna Matata. It'd be eat the bug under the log. What are you doing? In the slimy and satisfying. Oh, that scene. Oh, just doing the whole.
I don't have the script to the Lion King memorized.
You were doing the lick too. You did the whole funky, jazzy lick thing. I thought you knew. Slimy and satisfying.
Why, when he was a young warthog,
When I was young, where are we?
I admittedly did mess up there.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead. Well, let's speak.
When he was a young warthog.
When I was a young warthog.
Very nice.
Thank you.
He found his aroma had a certain appeal. He could clear the savannah after every meal.
I'm a sensitive soul, though I seem thin-skinned. And it hurt that my friends never stood down with.
He was ashamed.
I'm changing my name.
Oh, what's in the name?
And I got down harder every time that
It's a fart joke.
Yeah, it's a fart joke.
I think the kids can.
Yeah,
It's about farting.
it's a normal bodily function. That's a bowel movement. Call it flatulence. But if you want to, we also call it fart. If you wanted to call it that, it's just a fart. It's just a fart.
It's funny because you explained the joke.
Yeah, that's part of it. I didn't know if they knew, so I had to tell them.
Hakuna Matata.
What a wonderful phrase.
Hakuna Matata. Ain't no passing grade. Oh, it means no worries for the rest of your day.
Yeah, it's our problem-free philosophy. Hakuna Matata.
you guys coming to meet us in 114. We're doing a signing. We'll be hanging out with you guys, selling our merch. We have exclusive Tavern Tour t-shirts and posters and everything that you won't find anywhere else after we're done with this tour. We appreciate you guys so much. I'm going to play another original song that is one of the most fun I've ever had writing a song. This is an original sea shanty called Man the Cannons from an album called Stop.
sitting right by our hotel room because nobody is able to come up to the fucking room. You bet. But day one, all wrapped and set. Let's see the rest of this week. So far my feet hate me. I'm not hungry, and I should be. I think it's because I'm running off of like pure energy, but besides the point.